happy that you're here with us. This group is all about getting better at listening to that soul part of us that wants to come through and guide that personality part of us. And so we're just all about, looking at exercises and ways that we can be practical about getting better to tuning into this part of us that's trying to communicate. Doing our very loose 20-20-20 format, where we'll start with questions from the gallery. We'd like to kind of focus today on intuition and how we can trust our voice, how we distinguish our voice from the chatter in our head. And then our explore topic, which will be a second 20 minutes, will be about what we're noticing, what has caught our attention the past couple of weeks. And we can talk about, is that a message from your soul, and how do we begin to interpret those things? And then Penny has a really fun meditation exercise today that's going to be focused on tuning into and recognizing our truth and anxiety signals. So are you ready, Penny?
Yeah. The exploration part is going to be, I've talked a lot in my books about notice what you're noticing. It's kind of a mindfulness practice. And I wanted to see and sometimes it's just not ordinary details, but some little high gloss symbolic experience that sort of stands out, that makes you kind of, oh, what was that? And see if it's almost like a dream image in a way that we can look at and see, what are we showing ourselves by the fact that we notice this? So that's what I want to get into in the exploration part. But for the questions, we didn't have too many that came ahead of time. Sharon, you gave one, but I think it's not quite appropriate for today, so I'm going to save it. But anything about your intuition, and I had some ideas here. How do you trust your intuition? How do you distinguish the source of input of is it left brain, right brain? Is it from your body? Is it from a dream? Is it, how do you know that it's intuition? And there are certain ways, like sometimes people actually hear a voice or see an image, or, it's coming via one of the senses. And then how do you know when something's accurate? So if these things are setting off little fireworks in your head, then why don't you ask some questions for us, and we'll see what we get. Any of those appeal to you?
Penny, well, people are thinking I can maybe get us started. And this has to do with when we feel like something is important, like something is out of the ordinary and is catching our attention, but yet we can't seem to make the connection of what we're supposed to notice or what we're supposed to know. And what's happened with us is in March of 2020, in the height of the pandemic, and I wasn't even at the house. My daughter and her friend were staying at our house. We had a male cardinal, a beautiful red cardinal, that was flying up against a large bathroom window, kind of frantically just flying up and tapping at the window. And fast forward, we're at May of 2021, and that same beautiful red cardinal is still banging on our windows. He comes to my office window here, and he'll peck up there. He'll probably make an appearance because he usually comes around when we're in the room. He still flies up frantically against the bathroom window, and he'll even go down around to my husband's office at the back of the house and bang on his window. So I know this is unique behavior, because sometimes cardinals or any bird will peck on a window because they see themselves and they'll think it's another male bird. But it seems like there must be something more to this, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, well, it's like obviously something is trying to talk to you, right? It's like it's not going to give up. And it's interesting that you had it during COVID, in the beginning of COVID also. It just almost, what I would make of that first, and you all can chime in too, but I would just say it's something about, hey, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, notice, notice, notice. Now, red is such a powerful color, it's that life force. It's like, pay attention to your vibration and your life force energy, I would think. I'm not sure what cardinals mean. Actually, does anybody else know in the
Um,
the
in a
bird
religious
dictionary?
in a religious context, there's spirituality, divinity, that. But this is
God.
yes, and this is my take on it. Is from the science part, we're all energy, right? And we all give off an electromagnetic field, and we all feel it from the earth. And those signs from birds and animals and deer, to me, it's a way of spirit ability to manipulate the electromagnetic field. Because I'm getting all of these signs. Like my mother-in-law passed away, and her sign was, and my totem animal is the dove. And we're allergic to flowers, but we got a bunch of flowers. And so I kept them outside because we're allergic to pollen and flowers. Well, one morning there's just a beautiful mourning dove right beside the flowers. And my daughter goes, "Mom, oh my gosh." And so I took a video of that. But yesterday was my daughter's graduation from elementary school. And I was going to the restaurant to decorate the tables before we arrived with balloons. And I was parked at the front of the restaurant, and a dove flew on my hood and just stared straight at me like, "Hey." So I believe it's kind of like they can use that to give us signs, electromagnetically, to signal, "Hey, we're here," which is really cool. What I'm finding also signs for other people. Like yesterday, I kept seeing hearts, like hearts on the window of my dash. There was a heart, like in fog, right? So I'm like, okay, that's a symbol of the day. And then I was meditating on my backyard mat, and then a leaf, which is not a leaf anywhere around. It's not any of the trees from my crepe myrtle or oak, but it was this perforated leaf of yellow that was shaped in a heart, just right in front of me. And then I went to lunch when we were celebrating my daughter, and my friend who was with us, the other mom, was wearing a big heart necklace. So I'm like, who is this sign for? Because it doesn't really resonate with me. And it turned out to be a friend's sign of her dad who passed away, who popped in my head. So I'm like, I kept texting her these pictures, like, "Are these for you?" So I feel like they're beautiful symbols and signs for us. I don't know. It needs to mean something.
I agree. I mean, I think birds are really often messenger energies between the dimensions, especially they say blackbirds, like crows and ravens and so forth, are almost like, I had seen them once, it's almost like a black hole or something where they can just pass through the dimensions and messages can come in from them. But I think all birds are like that, actually.
I think the red cardinal, though, is supposed to be like if someone departed who's passed over, trying to contact you.
Yeah, that's what I think a lot of times birds are. I've had 2 birds fly into my sliding glass doors in back, chased by a hawk, and they left imprints on the door that looks like a ghost pattern. I think I put it on my Instagram, but every feather is outlined in, like, I don't know whether it's dust or what, but even its beak, its legs, it was like, I've never seen anything like that. It was just like the ghost image of something really connecting, and they were not killed. So I don't, it's just like a visitation. So I don't know. That's my take on it, Kelly. Anybody else have thoughts?
Audra, did you have a comment?
You're muted. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Ooh.
There's distortion.
Yeah, it might be your earbuds, Audra. You're sounding like a robot.
Any better?
No.
I'm connecting. Are you better now?
No.
It might be because there's other computers.
Yeah. Maybe if you just unplug the microphone completely and just try it that way.
So if I do that, though, sometimes I can't hear you. I'd have to hang up. I'd have to hang up and reconnect.
Yeah,
Let me
give
see if
that
I
a
can. Let me
try.
see if I can. Okay, I'll reconnect.
I've never heard that before or had that happen before with that kind
Yeah.
of distortion.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
else has a question
Yeah.
or something they'd like to share that's been going on?
Something with your intuition, whether you've trusted it or how you're receiving it these days. Is it coming via one of the senses? Christine?
Yeah. So we've been dealing with some developers, and we've had this feeling that they're not telling the truth a lot. but they said they'd put the planning application in and everything else, and I didn't believe. I said, yeah, well, they say they have, and they've got this electronic like thing that shows they've submitted it, but they've not submitted it. I know they haven't. And everyone said I was mad, and we found out on Monday that they didn't pay the fee, therefore it wasn't a valid submission.
And how did you feel it?
It was just in my gut. I just knew. It was a feeling in my body, but it wasn't like, oh, that doesn't sound quite right. It was just like I absolutely knew. And everybody else said to me, that's crazy, that can't be the case. But I just knew.
Yeah. That's going to tie in right to what we're going to do with our truth and anxiety signals later, because that's definitely one of those things where it's like your body knows.
It's like my whole body knew. It was like,
Yeah.
sometimes you get a gut feeling where something doesn't feel right, but this was just like I absolutely, my whole body knew this was not the truth they were saying, and I said they haven't paid the fee, and everyone's like, well, you can't do that. Like, well, they did.
I love it.
And what about when we get body sensations? And maybe like Christine, it sounds like you got that when the developer was saying something, right? Like when you were in the situation. But what about when we get the body sensations and we're not in a conversation with somebody? There's not something going on right there, and you start to wonder, okay, what is this about? Just wondering how we can get better at figuring that out. Or you have any comments toward that?
Well, this is partly this whole idea of noticing what we're noticing, because a lot of times you're so distracted in your left brain and you're running so fast that you're not noticing the little subtle signals that we're getting in our body. And I think I've said before that I think as you get a little better with your intuition, you start working on discriminating these very subtle states of being, like when it's time to leave the house to be on time for an appointment, or if you just don't want to eat dinner, and you think you should, but you don't want to, or there's just whatever. So many of these, like, should I return that phone call right away or let it wait for a day or two? And sometimes you do this automatically, and because maybe there's information missing or something, so part of it is learning to tune into, almost expect a response to various unconscious questions you ask. Like we ask ourselves, like, what should I do it this way or that way, or all day long, and then often who's answering, right? Is it your left brain and its shoulds and its rules, or is it something deeper that wants to feel into the whole situation and get like a subtle, it's not just a yes or no, but when your intuition's answering, it's more like a pattern of information that can have a lot of variables in it. Like I'm not going to call that person back right now because either I'm not ready or they're not ready, or there's a piece of information that needs to happen, or somebody's in a bad mood or something, and that you're able to recognize and distinguish these little states. So you're getting very specific data from your body and your energy state. But first we have to learn how to describe it, to recognize it, and then know that that is a thing, and that if that happens again, it's probably for the same reason. Can you relate to what I'm saying or have examples of it? Yeah, Elizabeth?
When you were just speaking, it reminded me a few years ago, I really, really wanted to take Kundalini yoga, and I didn't want to do it alone. I finally talked my friend into doing it. She's like, I don't want to do this, but let's do it, because we found it was being offered in a yurt in the middle of the countryside. So I'm like, oh, that's just so cool. So we went and we did it and we did it and we did it. And this yurt, it wasn't in the greatest shape. And so sometimes when it rained, there would be drops. And so sometimes we're getting rained on while we're doing our yoga. So one night we're in there and it's pouring rain and I keep feeling these drops on my head. And I'm like, okay. And then there was no water. There was nothing. And then I realized, I said, oh, this is me. Actually, I'm opening up and I'm starting to really feel energy. And so then after that, every time I felt that, then I knew like that was one of my signals, but I had to actually stop, like you said, stop and make it like part of my little dictionary, and it would be taps on the top of my head. So I said to my mom one day, I said, like when you get taps on the top of your head, she's like, what? So I'm like, oh, okay. So not everybody gets this. So this is part of that. I totally agree. Like you build your own personal vocabulary, and these signs start meaning certain things, like pay attention, don't do that, go do that,
Right.
stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it
Like-
it started with a physical thing first.
That's
and
right.
I thought it was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until I realized I wasn't.
We've got a question in the chat from Malika. She says, is intuition an expansion of awareness or the soul speaking through, or both?
I think both. To me, the intuition is you're expanding beyond your logical left brain normal mind, into an awareness of all the non-physical frequencies, vibrations, potential states of being, and learning to recognize those subtle different frequencies as different kinds of information. It's the right brain, which is, with your right brain, you're very immersed in the unified field, in the imaginal realm. There is no separation. So you can't talk there. You can't observe things. You have to have your left brain to interrupt your right brain so that you can have a focus. Otherwise, but when you want to access intuition, you go into that sea of knowledge and allow things to come to you, and then they start to bubble up, and then the left brain gets it and says, oh, it's a such and such. And so the left brain's function is very important. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any meaning. We wouldn't know what to do. But we don't want to live there all the time. So intuition is then that ability to go out and expand your reality, to have any number of possible realities that you want, or to combine variables in any way that you want to create things for yourself. And I think a lot of it comes first through the body, and we'll talk about this kind of truth and anxiety signal, which is a kind of contraction expansion experience in the body, but also it comes through the senses. You may hear the little voice, you may get the vibe, the tingling, the tap on your head like Elizabeth had, you might have smell, any of the senses have the versions, clairvoyance, clairsentience. I call it clairsmelliance, or whatever you want to call that. But, I don't know if you've ever had that, where you go into a room and like suddenly you smell somebody's perfume or maybe even a cigarette smoke or some cigar smoke or something where it shouldn't be there. And it's really from another being or from something that's like almost a mediumistic connection through the senses. Anybody ever had smell stuff like that? Sally, what was yours?
I still have it. I've had roses, and I once was in a very strong problem, and I started to cry, and my tears smelled like roses. And
Wow.
I thought that's not right. And it fell on my robe, and I later went and smelled my robe. It smelled like roses. But now I'm having a smell around me at certain times, and it just stays there. And it's like smoke. It's smoke.
Mhm.
And if I sit, in certain places or something happens, I can sense the smoke, and I don't know what it is. It's
Yeah.
just there.
Yeah. I had that for a while when I was working with a shaman and for several years. And I think there were astral visits or something. And when he would come, I would smell the cigarette smoke, which I hate.
Yeah.
It would be in my house and I'd be all pissed off. Then I'd realize it was the guy, making a visit. Yeah. But did you have anybody you knew who had rose perfume or loved roses, or that was a connection to them?
No, it was in meditation, and
But in real life, you didn't have a relative or a friend or anybody?
no, I assumed it was, Mother Mary.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that would make sense.
you know,
Right.
that essence came through, and she was
Yeah.
saying she was with me.
Yeah.
She sensed me, but I don't know about the smoke.
Yeah. Anybody else have any? I mean, this could also be, what they call direct voice. I don't know if you've ever, like sometimes when I've been falling asleep, I'll just hear somebody yell my name, or something, where it's not a physical noise. It's but it sounds physical. Okay, Sharon, did you have your hand up there before I started talking?
The way that I get intuition also is through my dream work. Sometimes very important intuition, like life-changing. And that's happened a number of times. And I do pay attention to it because I've learned to really trust it. And it's turned out to be true guidance.
So does it come as imagery or a voice or direct messages or
well, one
all of the
time
above?
I had a friend who was a good friend who also worked for me, and she taught yoga. And I had a symbol of fire, that there was fire going on with her. And when I asked her, she denied it. But as it turned out, there was a direct betrayal. And she was doing things behind my back that, it came through the dream work. It was revealed that way. And I've had other instances like that. So I've really learned to trust it.
Good, good. Anybody else?
We have some hands up here. Debbie has had her hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi. So can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple things. Penny, when you
There
were
we
talking
go.
about decisions, too much left brain and you're not sure of a decision, I have that a lot. And I will a lot of times just envision the outcome being in each of those situations. And then I get physical sensations. So I can feel that contraction. I'll feel this just horrible heaviness up in my shoulders, or I'll feel ease, and that will allow me to make a decision that way. And I think with intuition, I've always gotten imagery, and it's not necessarily when I'm sleeping, but when I close my eyes, I see a lot of, sometimes it happens very fast, like I'm falling down a black hole, but these visions are going as fast as they can. I'm trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. And so when I was ill after my first surgery, and I was very scared and didn't know if the cancer was gone, I would close my eyes. And I never verbalized it until just recently. but I would see this one little pinhole spot kept popping up, which I didn't even want to verbalize to anyone. And I knew in my gut it wasn't gone. And sure enough, after chemo, they saw another spot. And so not always, yeah. So it seems like the imagery when my eyes are closed is not always necessarily good things.
Mhm.
I don't know if I should say good or bad.
But important,
Right.
probably,
Important
things you need to know about.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that seems to happen quite a bit. And sometimes I can't make sense. They go very quickly. And then all the time when you guys are talking during book club, someone says something that resonates spiritually with me and I get tingles constantly. So you'll see even today, just hearing you guys talk and share stories, I get it up. So if anything is true, I feel that, and that's been my whole life.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll ask for a sign. When I was sick, I was being passed around and I was having breathing and I was terrified going into a cardiologist. And I was walking through a parking deck and I was just like, please God, give me a sign that all is well. And 2 seconds later in the parking lot, there was one of those die cut leaves that you would have like at a party or on the wall, you write things on, just a little leaf cut out so you put food on it. And it had been run over a million times, but something in me said, go back and pick it up. So I walked 3 steps back, picked up this dirty run over leaf, and it must have been used for one of these company parties. And all it said on there in black Sharpie was perfect health. And I just smiled and went in more confidently. So a lot of times I'll ask for something. I brought my phone when I was sick and I was about to swipe text on my Android back then. And I hadn't started texting at all. I hadn't started swiping. And I almost dropped it, grabbed it. And when I picked it up and looked, all it said was Zen. So I would just constantly during that time, especially ask, please show me signs that all is well. And those types of things would just one after the other. So
I love it. I love it. So fantastic.
That's amazing. Audra, do you
Yeah.
want to give your earbuds another try?
Better? Any better? Any better?
It's
No,
just not
sorry.
working. Not sure
Yeah.
what that's all about.
It's happened once before too. When I did a call like this with someone. No.
We'll
No
have
luck.
we'll have to play with it later
Yeah.
on another
Sorry.
call or something.
Sorry about that, Audra.
Oh,
Sally, you
yeah.
got-
Yeah.
You can put things in the chat though if you want. and
yeah,
we'll
that's a
get
good
'em.
idea. And Sally had something.
Yeah.
I was just gonna, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just gonna say that I just asked and the answer comes. And what?
Okay, sorry about that, Sally. Go ahead.
And that's just what happens, you know. So my husband wanted to buy a car the other day, and you know, I would just ask, is it the right car? And it would come down. And Rudolf Steiner says that that's an expansion of the senses, that it's, that's my hearing. And I think that, you know, some people are very clairvoyant. Some people are, you know, all the smellians and all the things that Penny was talking about.
All the clairs.
All the clairs. Yeah.
All the clairs.
It's just opening to the higher energies coming in, and we all have different capacities. And like the people who find, I'm amazed at the people who have all these signals that they see outside of them, and they put them together and make some kind of a meaning out of it. I just don't get symbols. It's not my skill. So I think we're all differently made.
Yeah. You probably do get symbols, but part of it is noticing them again. So, you know, let's start talking a little more about noticing what you're noticing, because I think our conversation's sort of a piece today somehow. Doesn't surprise me, but there are these things. Like the other day I was doing a session for this woman, and this squirrel, they have been coming up more and looking in the window at me on my back sliding doors. But this guy climbed up the screen till he was at eye level and then looked in, you know, like like this. And I had to stop, and I told her, my God, this squirrel is doing this crazy thing. It's just, oh, I raised a family of squirrels. They are crazy. And I'm like, okay, you know. And so why would I have had that experience. First of all, the squirrel, the noticing of the squirrel, then thinking of telling it to the person and finding out she had a special squirrel experience. To me, that's like, it's not about squirrels necessarily. It's about some kind of understanding that we are much more deeply connected to everything than we realize, that the squirrel came, it's all hooked up somehow. It's like a validation,
Yes.
So what about other things like that you might have noticed that we could maybe interpret? Just, like these scenes from ordinary reality. Sometimes they're fairly mundane, but a little odd,
For me, I think the hard part is trusting the intuition, and it comes in the form of anxiety. And okay, so we always think anxiety is bad, right? But for me, it actually, because my normal authentic state is kind of peaceful and easygoing. So for me, the anxiety, I always interpret it as bad, but it really is a good thing. I'm learning at 48. The first instance was when I was 19, and I had this panic of needing to get home. And I didn't have a car. So I was asking everybody, it was this anxiety, I just need to get home, and knowing, a direct knowing. And it turned out I found a ride by Grace's help, and ended up on my front porch. And that was the same night my mom passed away. My dad said, I called and they said you were already down. How did you know? And I told him I didn't know. I just knew it was a knowing. So for me, the anxiety I've learned is actually a really positive thing, which was interesting.
Well, in a way, Jasmine, it can be that the more intense the thing coming in, what you're calling anxiety,
yes,
is a kind of a psychic pressure, that it is important, go do it,
psychic pressure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't see it as negative, but it's, it's something that you really are wanting to be there for. You really want and need to do this thing. And you don't know why necessarily.
Yes. Yes.
But you're showing yourself things. You're getting through to yourself. It's time, like that. And of course, there are a lot more subtle versions of that, of it's time. Like when to leave the house to be on time for an appointment.
Yes.
Right. Same kind of feeling state, but much less pressured, much more subtle.
Not so intense like that. I mean, it was a clear, you need to get home, like now.
I love that term, psychic pressure.
Me too. I've never heard of that term.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way to look at it. And like someone brought up earlier, you don't want to necessarily classify things as negative, or, you're getting this negative feeling and this negative vibe. It's information, or it's something that.
That's right.
That wants.
Yeah. I mean, all this stuff is data, really, if you think about it. It's energetic information or energy information that is coming in as different frequencies. And often I do feel a pressure, like I've mentioned this before about the Tempur-Pedic mattress image, it's like, I feel like something presses on me and then it lets go and I go back to my normal state. But I feel that sense of impress. I am impressed by something and it causes me to notice it, and I think that once you start noticing that feeling state, then you can notice the subtle versions of it, like the squirrel or, other things that you would maybe just normally gloss over as some little happenstance thing, but then use it to get deeper into your connection with spirit or with your own soul self, and, and or even your soul group,
Yeah, Dawn, you had something that you wanted to say. Why don't we go to you?
Yeah, my daughter, I've learned, firstly when I was pregnant with her, I just knew, I had a child before the time that you really always could accurately tell a scan, the gender. But I just knew it was a girl, and she was a girl, and so that kind of gave me the confidence just to know things, and at really poignant moments, I've been in a meeting and I'm just getting up, it's like a meeting you can't get up, but I'm getting up and I'm phoning, and she's just about to she was 13 at the time, and there was an older man trying to groom her, but, so I've just got that connection, but just lately, she's been grappling with a relationship, and a lot, so not this Saturday, but the Saturday before, and we don't talk often about it, because I said, when you're ready, then let's go. And she brought it up, and I said, she couldn't work out why she was stuck, and I said, why didn't you just say, I'm willing, I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm ready, I'm willing, and I said, don't do anything, but just do that. Sunday, she phoned me. She says, I've started the process, and we worked out how she wanted to do it because it's her life, her relationship. Monday, she said, I haven't been able to think about what the next step is. I just felt inclined, looked for looked at 2 rooms, kind of said that to her, and then had it. Let me just call this friend. By Wednesday, she was out in accommodation, and that was one of the other things I said to her. Let's say I'm willing, harmonious, and people say, how can you have such a, it's not a short relationship, and it's a living relationship of about 6-7 years. And it's I'm not going to say it was like totally, oh, just bye-bye, but harmonious as you can get for anything, like,
Well, I love what you said about, I just let myself know things.
Yeah.
That's really great. Because, the left brain wants to have a reason for it, like logical sequencing toward it and everything, but just to let yourself know what let yourself know things. And, the willingness thing is great because you're just letting your mind be open then. It immediately opens up to whatever comes, whatever needs.
And I've said to, so we know, what the formula is. Just say I'm willing. You don't have to do anything until that, because I wasn't actually expecting it would come through this quickly, but it just built up to that pressure, isn't it? Like, what was it? The psychic pressure that she just didn't have it. It just had to come out when she announced it on the Sunday morning that she, it was now time for her to leave.
Well, you can always depend on the left brain to make things complicated. Right. And how people say that a lot. Oh, it's complicated, as a way to not have to talk about it.
Yeah.
They're just in their left brain. So it's,
so I don't know. In that sense, with dreams, I've tried dreams, and I've got Gestalt background, so dreams are a message of yourself to yourself. And I just decided, if I need to know a dream, I will know it. So I gave up trying to perfect that art because it wasn't working for me. Now it's I wake up and then I remember the dream if I have to remember it. So
Well, I think this whole thing of making your ordinary reality into the waking dream, that we are dreaming this reality as well as all our nighttime ones, and so that's the whole idea that, hey, I'm the soul, I'm creating this whole deal and entertaining myself with it, by making all these things happen and noticing them in my reality. And so there's just something here about choosing to notice what you're creating, right? Choosing to notice what's happening around you, and then having fun interpreting it and having a look at, well, what am I saying? What are we all talking about here? What's going on? What's the truth in the non-physical realm? What's really, am I showing myself things? Like I mentioned last time, I see my birthday on the digital clock all the time. And it's like that, I have decided that's for me to say, hey, you're being born right now. Remember, you're new, just like boom, right now. And use it. I use it that way, but other people could do whatever they want, whatever it means to you. So let's talk a little bit about the truth and anxiety signals. We've already started touching on that a bit, which is, how do you know when something is true, when something is safe, or when something is a lie, not true, or not appropriate for you, or actually dangerous. There's two different ways the body responds. So let's look at the anxiety signals first. That's usually the one we notice first. How do you know when something's a lie, or it's not right for you, or it's dangerous? Where do you feel it in your body?
I tend to feel it in my stomach. If it's a
You mean
no,
solar plexus or lower stomach?
mine is more in my, well, I have felt it in different, I think more of the anxiety in the solar plexus, but like a no or a icky feeling would be lower in my stomach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Others? Christine?
Yeah, a bit like Kelly said, I sometimes get something across my chest, like underneath my chest in my solar plexus, but generally the feeling is right in the gut.
Mm-hmm. I often feel like I'm having a heart attack or something, like my chest gets really frantic feeling or tight and weird. Like I just, it's frightening almost. Or one of the other ones people talk about a lot is that they get cold, or their hands and feet get cold, like feet of clay. Probably comes from some reason for that phrase. The energy is withdrawing from the outer parts of the body and going to the core to sort of protect yourself. So when something's not right for you, you may feel like a cold, wet blankets on top of you, like you feel heavy or solid, like everything just contracts in, and it's just, it won't move. It can also be related to the chakras. Do you know, like some people their throat gets really tight and they can't talk, or they just really awful, or their forehead, or base of the spine. That word tight ass doesn't come comes from somewhere, and the neck, stiff necked, means that you're stuck there, you're stubborn, you're not letting things move. So there are a lot of phrases we have for that feeling of anxiety or not rightness, maybe, in the different chakras. So how do you have any of the chakras that particularly stand out to you when you know something's not correct? Any symptoms?
I also tend to get a headache if I know something's not right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's always a contraction, right? It's always like your energy stops moving, and it can produce pain. Like the stomach thing can be nauseous. I mean, it goes far enough, you feel like throwing up if it's bad enough in the stomach.
I often feel things in my throat also. And it seems to be if something needs to be said, and I'll notice that once something is said, then the sensation goes away, but it's usually a constriction or a tightness.
Yeah. Anybody else? How do you know? I want you to actually think this, because we're going to do an exercise using these after this. So just think about that. Well, how do you know when something's really right, or when you're hearing truth? Debbie, you already shared some of that about the chills and things.
Yes. And
how else do you?
I just feel more of a lightness, and the opposite happens when whether it's danger or just something that's not right, or disgust or anything, I feel this horrible heaviness, almost like where I can barely stand up and move. It feels like it's in my arms and legs and in my head.
Yeah. I have that too. It just feels like a wet blanket's on top of you, and you can't, it's like, oh God, it's just so hard to move. And gray, maybe you see colors, associated with things. Any other truth signals?
Malika says a yes makes her feel joyful and excited.
This because the positive signal is where energy is released. and you start radiating and expanding. And so often you will have a feeling of warmth or things bubbling up. That's why the chills thing often happens. You're actually having energy releasing up the spine, and then it goes out the arms and down, often through the shoulders and arms. And, you know, it's not a negative thing. It's really a releasing of energy. This is, ooh, I know that was right because I just got chills or goose flesh. And or you feel, some people expressed it as like somebody broke an egg and it was spreading across their third eye, like kind of things like that. But generally releases of energy that make you feel really good, and you lean toward things rather than leaning away, because you get repelled with an anxiety signal. You don't like it. So you can kind of see psychically, am I leaning in or not? Anybody else's?
So it's funny you say the lean in, because when, like Sally, I ask questions, should I do this? And if I fall forward standing, it's a yes. If I fall backwards, it's a no. And then that's how
Right.
I play the game with that.
Right. It's like we discover our own language for these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Audra says that truth feels like light and energy, or sparks of light. And Sharon, instead of getting goosebumps, she gets God bumps.
Oh,
That's good. That is really good. Okay, well, let us do a little meditation. And so we're going to use your truth and anxiety signal to make some decisions, leaving your left brain out of it. Totally. So if you will go ahead and just close your eyes and let yourself be centered in your chair. So your feet are on the floor. Your back is nicely supported. Just follow your breath in all the way down to the bottom and let it turn and flow back out, all the way out, and let it turn and flow back in at a nice, easy pace. Bring your attention inside your skin so you can feel your various vibrations, like your nerves buzzing, your heart and pulse moving your blood around, your breath, your cells vibrating. Okay, now I'm going to give you a list of different kinds of foods. And when I do, I'd like you to imagine eating the food, chewing it, letting it go into your stomach, and see how it digests as it goes into your body. And, you know, some of these things you may have opinions about, but I'd like you to stay out of your opinion and just let your body do the talking. All right. So the first food is a chocolate brownie. And imagine that you're smelling it and that you're putting it in your mouth and eating it and swallowing it and letting it go into your stomach and be digested. And see how your body likes that, if it likes to integrate the different ingredients in there. And you'll just get a truth signal or an anxiety signal that says the body's comfortable with it or it's not comfortable with it. It doesn't prefer it. No foods are good or bad, but there are preferences. All right, so then let's just clear the brownie away and make open space again. And let's try like a green salad, a fresh salad with anything in it that you would like. And you can use your sense, you can look at it, you can smell it, you can, like, as you eat it, you can, you know, bring it into your system. See how harmonious that feels. And as it goes into your stomach, is it easy to digest? Does your system like it? Sometimes temperature may have an effect on these things. So do you contract a little around it? Do you expand around it? And then let's clear that one. And let's just try a hamburger. Imagine that you're smelling that and you're putting it in your mouth, you're chewing it, you're allowing it to go into your system. And see if your body might even need that or like it for right now. As it digests, you might get a sense that it's something your body wants or doesn't want. Okay, let's clear that away. Just dissolve it and go back to your neutral state. And let's try coffee, actually caffeinated coffee. Let's see what happens when you drink something like that and see if your body likes it. And you may get information, maybe it likes it at certain times of the day, or it likes it with something else, or it's too much. But even so, it's not good or bad. Just let yourself have the experience of it. Because sometimes the answers you get are not just yes or no, but you also get other data around the question that is modifying information. Okay, so let's clear away the coffee. And let's try a nice, crisp, organic apple. So you're eating it, you're letting it go into your stomach and letting it digest. You're getting a truth signal or an anxiety signal about an apple. Okay, clear that away. And now I'd like you to just ask your body what kind of food it wants soon. Like, what does it really want right now that would go down really well and feel really good and be very useful? It will give you an image of it or a taste of it or a smell of it. And you can imagine that you have eaten it and that it has integrated into your system. Okay, so you can clear that away. And now we're going to shift just a little bit to another use for your truth and anxiety signals, and that is to help you make a choice or a decision about something that's happening in your life right now. So keep your eyes closed and think of a situation that you're dealing with right now where you need to make a choice. And you might have, let's say, 3 options. You could do it number 1, you could try number 2, and let's say number 3 is to do nothing about it right now. So I'd like you to bring up possibility number 1 for taking care of this issue or this problem, making a choice or a decision, and actually go into the experience of having it happen that way. Like you're in the little mini reality of it happening that way. And let your body tell you, I like this, I don't like this. I'm comfortable, I'm uncomfortable. this doesn't feel quite right because, and you may get some modifying information. Okay. So just trust what you get and clear that option away. Focus back on your issue that you'd like to make a choice about and bring up possibility number 2. Well, I could handle it this way, or I could do it this way. Step into that little mini reality where that is what you've chosen and this reality is happening that way, and see how your body responds. What are you telling yourself? And you may notice that you're getting some extra information along with that. Sort of maybe about the dynamics of how things might work or not work. Okay, and clear that option away. So you have a blank slate again, and then just take on the option of doing nothing about it at all. And step into that reality of doing nothing about it. And then start to project that reality ahead a little bit. How long could you do nothing about it? Could it be a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, a year? And you may find at a certain point, your body gets quite uncomfortable. So you can kind of use that as a barometer. Okay. So just take what you get. This doesn't have to be complicated. You can get information very quickly this way. And you can open your eyes and come back. So we may have to go over just a few minutes if that's okay, because I'd like to have some feedback or sharing from this. So in terms of the foods, any that really felt good or surprisingly you don't think it's good, but it was good, or it was good and it's not good, or certain sensations you had when you ate the food. Anybody want to share?
I'll share.
Okay, thanks.
With the hamburger, I saw it in front of my face. I saw myself putting it in, and I got, oh, I'm not going to put this into my mouth. And then you said, no, now digest it. So I ate it, but I felt terrible guilt about eating a hamburger.
Thank you, left brain.
It was left brain, and
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to eat hamburgers because of my condition that I have. And so it was like, I'm violating something. So yeah, the left brain came in.
Yeah. Because, in the inner worlds, like in the dream world, you can do anything you want because it's just, it's all rubbery, it all fluid.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Debbie, you have your hands up.
Who does? Christine?
Debbie.
Debbie. Okay.
So when you mentioned the salad, it was just kind of a light feeling. And then I envisioned like mixed greens, like the different colors and the mixed green salads. And I just started seeing these little starburst type reactions all over of these mixed green and red colors going out to all your cells. It was just a quick visual. And then the hamburger, it was like grief just went through my whole body. And then of course, again, it's probably left brain. Saw a visual of this cow's head and actually a little teary-eyed. And so I was glad when we went to the next food.
Yeah, you can see how the left brain gets in the way a lot with intuition because of preconceived ideas and beliefs and decisions.
When I envisaged the brownie and with the hamburger as well, there were two. So there was one that was homemade and one that was a really processed store-bought, and I tried both and I didn't like the store-bought processed one at all. but I
Right.
didn't know what the recipes were. That's what kept coming into my left brain. Things taste so good, but how do I make them?
Oh, very interesting. How clever we are. All right. Others? Anybody who hasn't shared yet? Any surprises? Did this work for you at all?
I could say, so the brownie, I could get that one in, but my whole throat constricted, and when it came to the hamburger, I just couldn't. It couldn't even go in. I was so tight around my throat. Yeah, just so tight around my throat. I just couldn't let it go in. And that's
Interesting
funny.
how-
Around the question, about making a decision, that was the kind of same thing that was happening to responses. Yeah.
So you had a throat response
Yeah.
for it. Okay, that's good to note for
Yeah.
the future for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about we move on to the choices about making a decision on something? How did that work? Option 1, 2, and doing nothing. Anybody want to share what the issue was and what the choices are? Instead of just sitting there and saying nothing. It would be really nice if you talked a little bit.
I had visualized myself. I'm going through a certification process and working with a mentor. And it was interesting when you talked about timing, because when I visualized myself kind of stepping through the process right now, I got a lot of constriction in my body, from my throat to my chest to my stomach. It didn't feel good at all. And then I think the next one was do nothing. And it felt, when I took myself out of that area, it felt very light. But I think it is a matter of timing, because when you talked about, projecting yourself out a few weeks, a couple months or whatever, it really felt like timing would be better a couple of months from now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's funny how you just know these things, right? And then, but the left brain says, yeah, but you should do it now because you have, but right.
Do it and get it done and hurry up.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I felt really conflicted because my situation is about, about wanting to maybe leave a job and a plan not opening up. And then I thought, and I was a little bit too in my head with it. But what did come through was, so the advice you gave your daughter, why aren't you using it? To just say, I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm ready, and just to leave it at that. So that was like practice.
So did you do the idea of leaving the job as one option and staying with the job as one option?
Yeah, and across all three, and that's why I booked a session with you. That across all three, I have like, not, I haven't got ease on one. On all three. There's
so they're all blocked, kind of.
Yeah.
Sort of. Okay, that's information, right?
Yeah,
that's information.
Yeah.
I think Robin had something.
Hey, Robin. Good
Hi,
to see
Jenny.
you.
Thank you. So what was most interesting from this exercise for me were noticing the sensations I was getting from the yeses and the nos. And what, so I have a throat thing. I often have a headache pressure thing that happens, which I'm pretty aware of. But what I wasn't as aware of until this exercise is that the things that were not feeling good to me or feeling more, the signal, one of the signals was my tongue on the right side would start to pulsate and feel really like burning sensation almost.
Huh.
And this is something that's come, I thought it was sort of a different, it was an issue I have related to my jaw, and I'm working on it with a dentist and all that. But anyway, it was interesting that actually it changed. That pressure in my tongue was changing when I was feeling the anxiety or the no response, I think. And so it's also interesting as it totally went away when I did a 4-day meditation retreat a week ago. And I wasn't aware at all of that thing in my tongue. So I'm noticing that maybe that's really a signal in my body about
Right.
stress
Yeah,
and
it could be a
anxiety.
real general thing that's showing you where you're off out of your alignment or something, you know.
Yeah,
And
so that was
very interesting.
And then what came, I thought it was interesting, well, what food do you need? And I got a real clear idea of a couple of things my body needed.
Like what?
Spinach and
Uh-huh.
lemon tea are both were really quickly came in. But the last piece about the decision, I could feel a difference. And again, it was sort of the tongue as well as I could feel what felt the most of the 3 choices, the most easeful or the less pressure. So that was good. Thank you.
I wonder if the tongue thing has anything to do with you being free to express yourself or not.
Possible.
In those situations, you might look at that because that's such a strong symbol for the tongue.
Yeah,
you know,
and only the one side. That's interesting.
Wow, that is interesting. Okay, well, we are past our due date here. So Kelly, did you want to help wrap things up?
Yeah, I hope you guys all can join us on June 2nd. Will be the next date, and you'll all be getting an email from me as a wrap up with the recording, and feel free to respond to that. And you can post things in the Facebook. I think I'll post a little video of my cardinal.
So yeah, definitely do that.
You can all see my little messenger that I'm not sure what he wants me to know. So,
and also the teaser for next week is we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff on getting guidance from your inner perceiver self, that inner part of you. So you might want to beforehand think of things you'd like to get some guidance about. Just some, be able to have something to work on.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
dear
so
ones.
glad you mentioned that, Penny, because it sounds like another really fascinating exercise. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun exercise, a funny one too. So it should be really, really good.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Love you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.